All right there. So, hello everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I know a lot of you have been with us before, but I'm going to introduce myself again and just go over a few housekeeping items. So my name is Amy and I'm part of the GrowthZone marketing team. And of course, we were really excited to have Melynn Sight from Insight Marketing with us today. She's been with us, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And most recently this spring, she did some really great webinars that you can find on our GrowthZone website under the resources section. A ton of awesome resources and information that she shared. So be sure to check that out. Hi to our customers. Thanks for taking the time, and we are really glad that you're here. For those of you that aren't familiar with GrowthZone, I encourage you to join one of our online group demos. So you can, if you log on to our, I'm just trying to change slides here. If you log on to our webpage at growthzone.com, you can see the sign in button or the sign up button just right there in the middle. So you can join us. It's a no pressure, just a brief look at what we have to offer and what our software can do for member-based organizations. And I'll also try to share a link in the chat section as we go through the presentation. Let's see here. The webinar is being recorded, so everyone that registered will receive an email that has a link to the recording, and it will also have a link to the slide deck, one of Melynn's handouts, some links to some of our previous webinars. So keep an eye out in your inbox for that. Hopefully it will show up in the next 24 hours. We will also be sending out, sending out an email with CAE credit. So if you are looking to earn CAE credit, this is an opportunity for 1 credit. You will get a certificate from us. It will most likely be in a separate email, so keep an eye out for that. If you don't receive it, just be sure to send us a message and we will make sure that we get it to you. If you're not familiar with CAE credit, we have a great blog on our website that goes step by step through it and lets you know what you can do to earn it. It's a great designation. So I'll also put that link in. Let's see here. I'm a little bit out of order here. So Melynn is going to, I've got so many screens open, I am sorry. So, here, she's going to take a really deep dive into communications for associations and chambers. So as a bonus, complementing her presentation, remember to check out our free marketing automation guide. It's actually a really great resource. If you're using email marketing now, if it's something you're considering, it's helpful to anybody. So be sure to check that out. I'll put a link to it as well, but it's also in the resources section on growthzone.com. As a reminder, we do leverage social media platforms to share free resources for associations and chambers. So we're everywhere from Facebook to Pinterest to LinkedIn. If it's blog posts, white papers, surveys, we try to put it out there. So keep an eye out for us. Now, as we go through here, I'm just gonna try one thing here. Feel free to interact with one another in the chat panel. And I think I missed that slide. Maybe it'll start over. Oh my gosh. So just going to go back to it so we can have a visual. So in the chat bar, there are 2 different ways. I'm hoping you all are seeing this, but there's a couple of different ways to interact with people. But if you want to chat with everyone, make sure that you go into the drop-down menu at the bottom of your chat panel to make sure that you select everyone, not just panelists. Because if you select just panelists, I'll see it. But if you want everybody else to see it, be sure to make that change. All right. And we will try to have a Q&A session towards the end of Melynn's presentation, and we'll try really hard to answer everything that we can. However, if we don't get to everything, I will make sure to send Melynn all of the questions that we weren't able to answer. And she has agreed to respond to those. So we appreciate that. And I will also put together a chat file if there's a lot of back and forth that goes on with people sharing resources. So that will be in the email with the video. So if I haven't gone on too long with that, I want to welcome Melynn and want to just do a brief intro. She is an expert in marketing communication strategies for associations and chambers. She spent 20 years creating and deploying integrated marketing programs for Xerox and played a lead role building the product and services of Sun Microsystems, which was very big, if I remember correctly. Melynn helps associations and chambers effectively convey value and relevance in today's world, which has been more challenging than ever. So she teaches association staff how to cut through the communications clutter that overloaded our busy, distracted members. So for the last 10 years, Melynn and her Insight marketing team have provided valuable insights for organizations across the US and Canada. She knows her stuff, she loves her work, and it shows. So I want to take a minute and say thanks for joining us. And here is Melynn Sight.
Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Well, I am going to share my screen now. Nope. Amy, can you turn that screen share over to me so I can share my screen?
I think so here.
We're trying to get that done here.
I think we're seeing you now.
Are you seeing me now? Okay.
I'm seeing your whole presentation, but it's crystal clear.
All right. Very good. Here we go. Let's move this out of the way. Come on. So if you all would do me a favor and get your phone out, because we are going to do a little bit of interactive work today as we talk about the message and the member. And if you would take your phone out and enter into the address field 22333. So in a new message, you're going to enter 22333. And in the subject line over on the left, you're going to enter MELS, MELS 287. And that's going to get you ready for polling so we can talk and we can see what everybody's thinking. And while you're doing that, I want to welcome you, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and South Africa, and North Dakota, and snowy Buffalo. Sounds like a lot of our country is snowy, like snowy Buffalo. So you're going to, once you type all that in, you're going to get a message that says you've joined the session. You're not going to be able to text message this. You're going to click on that little link called PolEv-MELS287. It's going to take you to a web page. All right. So just to see if we are doing okay with this.
Hey, Melynn, will you repeat that number one more time? And
sure. Yeah. In the to field, you type 22333. And in the message field, you type MELS 287. And if you would, once you're in there, would you kindly answer this question? Best thing that happened to you so far today? And I am looking for some answers. Ah, excellent. Somebody got a surprise today. That's very, very good. All right, so I guess that process is working. So, oh my gosh. Well, how nice is that, a homemade meal for lunch? Oh, for goodness sake. Oh, 40 inches of snow and hot coffee seem to go together. That is excellent. Excellent. What a nice way to start the day. Gee, there are a lot of nice ways to start the day, aren't they? Oh, look at these. Oh, you know what? From the little things to the big things, it all matters. Oh my gosh, I just love this. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of not such good stuff going on in the world. And to just See these kind of makes my heart sing. So yay. Oh my gosh. So keep watching. And as these keep coming, I'm going to get going, but I would like you to just feel good about something good that happened today. So thank you. Thank you. So let me just begin by, wait, my boyfriend made breakfast. Okay. What could be better than that? Okay. So I am Melynn Sight. I am here today with one hope. And that hope is to help you or whomever is your chief communicator at your organization to become even more confident or overcome any wishy-washiness to ultimately gain the skills and the confidence to build stronger connections to your members every single time you are in front of them. So I'm going to let this go on if you haven't entered this in yet, and I'm going to have a record of all your good news from today. So as we continue, keep going. Okay. What would you do if you were an association that is killing it in times like today? So as an example, what do you think if you were the American Statistical Association? I wonder if anybody's on the line that's from the American Statistical Association. You might say that the world operates by statistics, wouldn't you think? All the mathematical equations that we use to analyze things and keep us informed about what's happening, especially now. Recent case in point would be, the electoral map on November 3rd and 4th and 5th and on and on and on, or, all of the statistics and details around COVID, all the hospitalizations and cases and, all of that goes with it. So imagine you were a statistician for an association for the medical or automotive or travel or education, or frankly, any industry. If you were, you would hold in your hands a very clear and necessary purpose, your value, what you offer. You would be always offering value. And I bet you'd be hankering to talk about it in front of as many members as you could. But in times like today, there are so many distractions that associations are actually contemplating their purpose. They're defining, they're refining their own answer to why do we really exist? So figuring out how to convey why members should rely on them and deciding how to talk about that one big so-called benefit that they offer that will help something that's so necessary and so valuable and so needed at a time like. So let's go back to this. So not all associations have the built-in value proposition for 2020, like the American Statistical Association, because they study any kind of statistics and they are hyper relevant, but you are too. And so it all begins. With so much uncertainty all around us, let me get caught up, so much uncertainty all around us, one of the biggest opportunities you have as a leader is to become someone who can step on the stage or in front of the mic and overcome technical challenges and quickly establish rapport and convey why a member should hang on and hope for the future and stay tuned and stay connected to your organization. Because once you're firm about what you want to say, it'll be both meaningful to them and it gets across what you're looking to deliver to them. And then you'll be more confident to talk about it. So our goal for today is to get their attention. My goal is to get your attention by helping you to plan and organize and deliver a relevant talk for when you are in front of, anyone. We know there's a variety of approaches to getting people's attention, and this is one of them. Does anyone know this guy? You might recognize him. He is Dwight Schrute from The Office, and his mantra is just yell louder. I'm not going to put you through the video clip today, but if you passionately declare what you want them to hear, what you think is important, or tell them what you think you're going through, instead of a message that draws them in, they will either, number one, not take you seriously, or number two, they won't pay attention, or both. Dwight Schrute, you are a disaster. Let's look at what an ideal connection looks like. The most successful ones. I want you to think for a moment about the last amazing speech or presentation or interview that you have seen lately. A presentation that sticks in my head was this interview with um, extraordinaire presenters, Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn. It was at a Brian Buffini conference a few years back, and it will stay in my head forever as an example of a masterful presentation. And why? Well, today we're going to talk about how to go from disaster to mastering your next member message, your next message to the member. So let's kick this off with a poll that's going to help get you involved. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, the best presentations come from mastering a skill or two, a couple of skills. What do you think is the top skill for a leader to deliver a masterful presentation? So just type in A, B, C, D, E, or F. That correlates with the answer. Oh my gosh, B is really taking the lead. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, sounds good. Wow. Okay, we're at least 70%. All right, so let's see what really the answer is, okay? 64, 70%. So here are the 6 possible items. And I will tell you that several studies find that effective leadership requires discipline in 2 key skills. And they're these 2: knowing your audience and crafting a message that achieves your desired reaction. So crafting a really relevant message that not only appeals to them, but gets your point across, the one that you want to get accomplished. So keep this in mind about how we talk through how to best connect your message to your member. That is what we're talking about today. Okay. For today, I will be the presenter, presenting a topic that I want to get across, and one that my association, let's assume that it's my association, does best, that I really know that my members need so well, and they cannot get it anywhere else. So let's step back for a minute before we jump in. Let's put this disaster and master in context today. You know this guy? You all know him. He rose up as a COVID leader before anyone else knew how to deal with COVID. What did Governor Cuomo know about his audience? I know there are some of you from New York on the line. He knew that they were scared. He knew that he was scared, and he knew that everyone should be scared. He also knew how to craft a message that achieved exactly what he wanted to accomplish every single day that he got on that television. So while some people critique his initial response to be maybe slow and maybe even filled with mistakes, Governor Cuomo has been a study in the power of public communication that overshadows any policy failure. He'd had a detailed, candid, and even, sometimes even a funny daily briefing. And that was his appointment with America. Every day at 11 a.m., I would tune in from Kansas on many days, because from a communication standpoint, Andrew Cuomo was, in my opinion, a pandemic hero. And why was it? There is an underlying success factor for presenting any topic that you're going to present, and that is this. Every person who sits in your audience or who Zooms into your Zoom call, they come with their own baggage, their own worries, their own, distractions and fear. So offer them a strong and credible impression that relates to what they might be thinking about today. That's finding number 1. Know your audience. Because before they decide what they think of your message, they decide what they think of you. Recently, in a focus group down in Atlanta, an attendee who happened to be a very high, like a high producing member, said this. He said, our association is somewhere between soft sell and no sell. And frankly, I wish that they would do more selling. So I want you to remember this before you say to yourself, no, not me. I'm not in sales. And if you heard me before on a GrowthZone webinar or anywhere else, I'm going to suggest to you that we are all in sales. If we look at this definition one more time, sales, the process of establishing credibility and establishing rapport in order to further a relationship or move to the next step or get what you want to get from them. So if you want them to pay attention, and if I want you to pay attention, and if I want to turn or influence someone's perception from indifference to interest, before I sit down to tap out any message on a keyboard or doodle on a notepad, I'm going to remember this. To sell whatever it is that I'm going to try to sell you, or you are going to try to sell them, first and foremost comes credibility and rapport. Credibility to establish yourself as someone they should trust, and rapport, the ability to relate to them. The two things that have been findings for a long time about what happens when leaders present the criteria, the success factors for a successful presentation. Okay. I know you might remember this same quote, the same sales definition from a long time ago, but it applies as much in your ongoing communications as it does for somebody getting up in front of an audience. Another thing that you might have remembered from earlier in a GrowthZone webinar is there are 4 questions that take the focus away from you and keeps you focused on them, the ones that you want to influence or entertain or inform or whatever is your goal for the presentation. So here are the 4 questions one more time. If you can get yourself really, really clear on these 4 things, I mean, really clear, you'll have a great chance to relate to the very people you want to convince of your big idea whenever you get in front of them. So we're going to start with the heart of the message, because the audience wants to know what I can do for you, what you can do for them. So what do you know about them? They might be, curious or interested or doubtful to hear something that they can say, okay, I can try that. Okay, that's something that I've been looking for. Like, you want to grab them so that they're going to take what you say, your big idea, and relay it to someone else or use it for what they're going to do next. So this system, these 4 questions, helps you plan for any kind of message, a written message, a spoken message, a video, a launch of a new service, a presidential inauguration. I know some of you are going through that right now. And then once these 4 questions become a habit for you, you shorten it, you lengthen it, you rearrange it. But it is a systematic approach that helps you think through exactly what you want the audience to take away with. And then you plan with those people in your mind. So now that you're hooked up to Poll Everywhere, I want to do another question for you. Here's the scenario. So you're in front of a group of very successful and established members. And for whatever industry you're in, just put them in your mind. They're successful, they're established. They are the audience that we want to influence today. So I want you to tell me the one top answer. What is the top obstacle to getting your message through to a group of people like this that are really successful, really established people within your membership? If you would answer just with one short phrase, why is it so hard to reach them? Yeah, they're busy. Excellent. They don't have time. Yes. Yep. Not even getting their attention. They can't focus. Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Yes, there's too much noise. Yes. Yes for everything. Yep. Yeah. So many different audiences, so many different kinds of audiences you're trying to reach. Yes, so true. Okay, what if I could summarize this for you? And I would say there are 3 key reasons that the things that I'm seeing right now, they fall in 3 key categories. Number 1, they're distracted. They're focused on other things. So it's tough for them to cut through what they don't have in their, what would you call it? Their immediate field of vision. Okay, they're distracted. Number two, their perception. Convincing this really successful member or this top producer who has a predisposition to some other point of view or they know it all, their perception is their reality. And third, indifference. They don't care or they don't know enough to care. Okay. Or that they are too busy meeting a friend of a friend who might help them get ahead in some way. Or maybe they're too new to relate to what you have to say. I think we would all agree that indifference is hard to break into. And that is the imbalance that we have when you're looking to present something to a group of people. I am sure that I'm competing with a lot going on in your association today. So, are you distracted? Of course you are. Do you have a perception that you already have an approach for a presentation that works? Is it the same set of priorities that you promoted in January of this year? Do you feel like you need like some kind of shot in the arm for something different? Or do you rarely maybe step on the stage so you don't really relate to this kind of nervousness that happens when a presenter isn't prepared? Whatever is the imbalance, it is standing in the way of you buying my solution for today or your member buying your solution. So now we know the audience a little better. It will help me focus on the audience. Oh, wait, there's something else that's an obstacle right now that you might be feeling like your tribe is a little bit less connected. And why is that? After all, proximity is a key component for connections. Like feeling connected happens when you all are together in person with your people. It's where the action is. It's where the decisions happen, whether it's a annual conference or local chapter meetings or networking events or whatever it might be. If you don't have proximity, you have an additional element of imbalance. Distance is imbalance. Today, we're all experiencing this fatigue of online, the Zoom world. But more than that, members are really missing human connections, as you are. So distance is just one more obstacle. So it makes it that much more important to know them, to acknowledge them, and to speak to them. Speak to their fear, their frustration, their anxiety. It's interesting that the focus groups that I have conducted during COVID and what members are concerned about. On one hand, it's an isolation issue, but deep down, their concerns are the same as they were before the pandemic, figuring out how to do more business, do better business, make connections with people that will help their business stay strong. So what I'm going to focus on today is the process that will help you really make strong connections between the message and your member. So there's one big misunderstood prerequisite to starting a talk to a group of your stakeholders. And it's kind of the genesis of any presentation. It starts with the big idea. It's not the one thing that you want to convince them of or to report to them, but it's the big idea that you want to persuade them of. It's more than that. It's bigger than telling them about, your association's accomplishments. It's bigger than telling them what you have prepared or planned. I'm talking about the result of what you're going to talk about. Like what's the end goal of what you're talking about? All right. So this big idea is not about the characteristics of this road that you see here. The big idea is what you're going to get when you get there, what you're going to see when you get there. It's the one big idea. Because now that we're clear on the audience, like we need to know who the audience is, the big idea or what you want them to leave with is the number one thing you need to determine. So we just talked about all the causes of imbalance between you and your member. Your big takeaway is going to actually create that balance for them. So as a bit of background, so we don't just take an issue out of thin air, I'm going to relate my message to you today and all the examples on a sample association's value proposition. So this association conveys three very clear ways that the association helps to move a member's business forward. It offers both tangible ways that the association solves problems for them And it also shows the emotional benefit to belonging. So you can tell a really effective story about any of these three icons in the middle. We call those proof points. In this case, there are three ways that this association helps move a member's business forward. So for this talk, we're going to talk about this one in the middle, relationships with local officials. But I want to explain something to you, the bigger overarching benefit for belonging to the association. So if I'm going to be putting a presentation together, I'm not just going to talk about this one item called relationships with local officials. I'm going to link that item right there, that proof point that we do really, really well, to the overall message of why they should belong. And for this value message, the one you see here, the emotional benefit, see the graphic here, it conveys to them that a mass of people equals more influence and more impact in the community and in the industry. And this graphic also hopes to symbolize that you're not alone, that hundreds or thousands of members or like-minded people are stronger than one, whether it be one member or one company. So today's big idea, the one that I want you to take away, happens to be a primary benefit for many associations. And frankly, it's the hardest one to sell to many members. That's political involvement. And that's why I decided to focus on that one today. It's a really difficult concept for many members. So today we're going to sell this intangible benefit that relationships with local officials matter to their world, because that's what protects the member's ability to do good business and ultimately protects the consumer. Am I speaking to the choir? So you understand this, but it's hard for a member to understand that it's because of relationships. It's because of the result of that work and a result of those relationships that members can do the healthy work that they do in a business environment that's advantageous to them. All right. So this value message to members was created because members in this industry worry about protecting personal property rights. So this one big thing might be slightly different in your industry, but these members are especially worried about this. And my association happens to do this really, really well. So I'm going to explain it this way. I'm not going to use words that the member doesn't understand. So I'm not going to use advocacy or PAC or I'm not going to use I'm not going to even use lobbying. I'm going to call it relationships with local officials that help you protect personal property rights. So now that I'm really clear on what I want to get across, now let's move to step 3 of the 4 steps. Let's turn this around from what I want to convey, my one big goal, to what's most important to them. How will I hook them? So for the purposes of today, I'm going to share 3 needs that I have uncovered from doing all kinds of things, all kinds of research, surveying, focus groups, validating with research on many, many top producers in hundreds of associations. And I'm sure you all have this data too. So I'm not suggesting that first you have to go out and do all this research. You should have all this data by asking them, by researching them from different segments of your membership. I happen to be using the top producer for this one. I'm going to use all that information in their words that they have given, the feedback they've given me in my presentation. And why am I going to do that? Because I know if I share what they care about, I'll be more effective at relating to them in their own way. So for today, I'm going to ask you just to listen, just to rent these needs, because your members' needs might be different than this. It's just so that we'll be on the same page. So we're going to use 3 big needs as our examples for today. Let's think about what it would take for this audience of really successful people. We call them top producers, to pay attention, to care about, and then how about maybe to walk away from our talk and look at our association differently. I like to call this the money moment. It's conveying how our association can solve their problems or prevent more problems, or even laying out a roadmap to help them do more of, well, whatever it is that they want to do more of, okay? But that will lead to making a stronger connection with them.
So if I want to give them the money moment, I'm going to use what I know from them, their biggest needs. And they happen to be this. Number one, this group wants a really strong, smooth transaction. They want to keep improving their credibility because credibility is important to them because they're really successful and working with people that need that information. So they want to be in the know. And finally, they just don't want to give anything up. Okay. So those are the three things that I am going to be thinking of as I'm creating my presentation. Okay. Let's start with number one, a smooth transaction. It includes a lot of practical and sort of non-practical or emotional steps. Like a smooth transaction, whatever that might be, it would combine things like great service, great tools, great communications, someone maybe to be there when they have a crisis. A dozen little things that come together to make a great experience for them and then ultimately for their customer. Okay. On the other hand, a rough transaction or complication or roadblocks, that is extremely stressful. The medical industry today says that the next big frontier is going to be in finding even more research that links the intersection between the emotional heart and the biological heart. And the idea that the health of your heart is not only due to what you eat or your heredity or exercise, but that emotions and stress, all those intangible things impact the heart just as much as anything else. And that's the same analogy for an association. While rational relevance is really very important, the tangible return for the benefit, like your tools or discounts or access to training or the vital information that you deliver. But it's the intangible, it's often the things that they don't think about, the things that help them sleep better at night. Those kind of benefits, those are emotional ones, and those are even more important to them. All right. So this high producer, we're trying to make a smoother path for this producer so that they feel more connected with the organization. So I need to give examples that show a top producer that I know that a smooth and efficient transaction is about tangible things, but also it's about emotional ones. So to meet this need head on, I'm going to remind this distracted, busy high producer that both kinds of member benefits are important. So what if I convey something like this? As you focus on your transaction moving forward, and I know how important that is, it's tools like electronic forms and online showing tools and e-signature technology. Those are regular parts of the way you do business. But what you might not always think about is the work that goes on every day to legally approve those electronic contracts that you do every day, or the lending regulations, or holding a status quo on your taxes on your commissions. In the background, there are people at this association building relationships, working to make sure your transaction is a smooth and efficient one. And here's the underlying benefit. While you're involved in the business of working with your clients and finding more prospects and closing more deals, the association is working in the background on protecting and advancing tools and laws like these. So that's how you sell or connect with a really busy member about why a smooth transaction is something the association can help them with. The second need, all too often, elected leaders, CEOs, frankly, we all underestimate the effort required to change someone's perception or their beliefs. So if I'm going to change their perception or get their attention, I'm going to structure what I say to solve their problems instead of promoting our services or telling them what we are really good at. So focusing on them is going to help these distracted, busy members tune in. The second biggest need is to help this high producer be credible, to help them, maintain and grow their reputation in their business. So I'm going to talk about decisions that are beyond their control and how those decisions might risk their credibility. So I'm going to try something different this time. I'm going to let somebody else do this and tell the story. In this case, it's a person that's going to take them to the Capitol. I'm going to let a fellow CEO talk about what happens behind the idea of consumer-friendly regulations that make this person look good. And I'm going to help them peek in and see how it happens. Okay. This happens to be a CEO in Ontario. All right. I'm going to have you listen first.
So have you heard about the mandatory home energy audits in Ontario? Not everybody, right? The provincial government had promised to implement a province-wide mandatory home energy audit scheme. So basically, in plain language, what they had in mind was that anybody who wanted to sell their home would have to do a mandatory energy audit before they could even list. Like, imagine how that would work. A seller couldn't list her home until the energy auditor comes in there, does the inspection, does the report. You couldn't even list. And think of that senior citizen. You know, maybe her husband passed away. She was relying on that hard-earned equity in her home. A low energy score or a shady operator could cost her thousands and thousands of dollars in those precious retirement savings. Obviously, that would be very bad news for home sellers, so we fought against it. I remember seeing David Reed and Ettore Cardarelli and John Odie, our government relations chair, in action. I had a ringside seat as they talked directly to cabinet ministers and explained why this made no sense. It's bad for homeowners. It's bad for the Ontario real estate market. And 2 days ago, I got a letter from the Minister of Energy saying, because of our efforts, they're putting the brakes on that bad audit program.
Okay, that's a way to actually take the member to where the action happens to help make a point. And finally, I want to talk about the third idea. And, you know, there's many ideas to this, but a third idea, that top producer doesn't want to give anything up. And I just want to help give you permission that it's fine to offer a personal story as long as it relates to what you're trying to get across. So I'm going to share next how Jay, who happens to be an elected president in a state association, is going to give a great example about a personal story to get his point across, that we build relationships so that you don't have to. We do things in the background so you don't have to. Have a listen.
92 and a half. She likes to make that half really important. And on Labor Day weekend, she told me, take the keys, I've decided not to drive anymore. And I said, okay, how are you gonna get around? And she said, I've made accommodations. I have friends who will help me. And I said, that's great. Are you gonna be able to get to every place you need to go and want to go? She said, I think so. And if not, I'll give something up. Don't you give something up every day? I said, yeah, I suppose I do. What we want as your realtor organization is not to give anything up and not to have you give anything up. We are fighting for you every day to make sure that you are always at the forefront of the battle. Our advocacy folks are out there battling daily to make sure they get our message across and your message across to your elected officials so that they know what's important to you. We want more money in your pocket every day. We want to support your business by helping you make more money, keep more money. We want to make sure that people don't get in your pocket. We've had opportunities to really battle and make sure that taxes didn't get added to what you do, so that you aren't taxed for sales tax on your commission, and you're not taxed, your clients aren't taxed for an extra amount on their grantor's tax. We've been through those battles. That's what we do for you.
Okay, the idea in showing you these examples is that there are many ways to get the point across, through stories, through examples, through taking them there. And that's the way you relate to those people that you're trying to relate to. So now that we have talked through all 4 questions, if you have printed that document that we shared, that Amy shared with you, you have 3 pages. And they're very simple pages, and they take everything we just talked about and we put it in a template for you so that you can do this on your own. So this is how it looks. If you printed out the plan, you can make some notes. If not, do it later. Start one with goal one is tell yourself what the goal is. For example, for this one, this was our goal. Number two is talk about your target audience. So before you start writing anything, just understand what that is. All right. Next, you're going to turn to the next page and you're going to say, now, how do I figure out how to make them care? And what do I want them to remember so that I'm really focused on them and what they take away, their money moment? Down the left is the three things that I want my audience to understand. And now it's three different ways to relate to this audience. Okay. So for point number one, I'm clear with some kind of example that helps them understand all that goes into an efficient transaction. For number two, I might tell a story that takes them where the action happens. All right. And number three, maybe it's a personal story. That is far from the only ways to get them to say, I never realized that. But it goes beyond talking about what you plan to do or recapping a list of accomplishment. It takes it the next step. How will their world be better because of the work that you do? Sometimes, by the way, you can also tell your story with numbers, a significant statistic or showing a chart. Just remember, we're focusing on helping the member know that they can be a hero to their audience. So I'm never going to stop at what a message means to me, the presenter. I'm always going to go on to say what the message means to the audience. Okay, and finally, part number three. Once you make your case, what is it that you want them to do? Okay. You know how they say always be closing. So for every effective presentation is some kind of a close. And for this example, I'm going to probably do it this way. I'm going to restate just in maybe a little bit different way, the key points that I made. And then I'm probably going to do a close that, I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm thinking about something like this, something like that sounds like personal property rights are at the core of our business. And our relationships at this association with our local officials is a very significant step to shaping the laws and regulations in our industry. We cannot do our business without them. So I challenge you, all of you on this line, stay up to date with our efforts at the State House so you can use that information to your advantage. And then as you get to know the process, I hope you'll consider joining us at the Capitol to see this work in action. Okay? So give them something tangible to do next, whether it's just to think about something differently or do something differently. All right? So once you're done thinking through this outline, now it's time to craft your brief introduction that gets them to connect to you and then connect to your message. So you'll notice that you don't have to take up a lot of time with an introduction, aside from who you are and the audience, what maybe a little something about what the audience will get out of today. Did you catch that? Don't use your valuable time with your credentials or who you are or what you do. Give your name, tell a little something about you and what you're going to offer them. Okay? Like we talked about today, there's a lot of ways to use this template. You're going to use this anytime you want to persuade people of something that you want to matter to them. Okay, we've helped people like Nicole Sabris through a very difficult and contentious merger situation, and this same format helps with a inauguration address between Troy Wilson and Candy Hines. They offered a keynote address and used a format like this to do it. So it's that same 3-page document that will help you think through that. The framework works. It gives you just that structure to build what you're gonna say to relate to them and to earn respect. There are a few unforgivable things that I'd like to talk to you about before we close. The first one, of course, is not being prepared. So I'm going to challenge you that being prepared makes you confident, and confidence leads to a better presentation. So if you think you're done, practice a little bit more, in the shower is always a good thing. If you've ever been, this is number 2, this is really important, in a group of, have you ever been in this group of 3 people where 2 people are looking at each other and no one's looking at you? Does that ever happen? So that doesn't make for making very good connections. So rule number 2 is connect with everyone. Of course, if you're in the same room with them. All right. If you're on Zoom, connect with them on the camera. If you're looking at them, look at all of them. Swipe and stop, swipe and stop. This is a great way to establish rapport. Okay. And finally, your presentation is rarely going to be perfect. You're going to run into glitches. You're going to stumble a little bit, but I promise you that genuine, like knowing what you want to say and what you want to get across, genuine beats perfect. I know now what I hoped you would get out of today, so I'd like to verify it so far. I'd like you to answer in your own words. What is one thing so far that you've taken out of this presentation? One thing, one little gem. I'll take the first 5 and then we'll move on in the interest of time. Excellent. Excellent. Speak to them, not at them. Excellent. Authenticity. Yeah. Oh my. Very, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, a couple things now. Everything we just talked about should happen anytime, every time. Let me get this going here. Hello. Oh, I'm stuck. Everything we just talked about should happen all the time. But you know, these are not usual times. So here is a 2-minute appendix. And that is, there are 3 reminders when you are Zooming or online. And it's the same principles, but they go to the next level. Number 1 is timing. Remember that Zoom fatigue is real. So remove the rot, the redundant, the overwhelming, and the trivial. Okay? Make sure you know exactly what you want to talk about and you plan your time well. Next, we talked about practice generically, but online it's a different animal. You need to master different technology to help you build this rapport online easily and quickly. So a microphone, but I should be talking about this, having trouble with my microphone. So that if your acoustics at home are neither, not ideal, you get one that works, okay? And then finally, it's a good teleprompter so that you can connect with that audience and look at them into the camera. Okay, excellent. And finally, I want to tell you that I didn't know that that this presentation today would be so vital, that so many people are interested in how do I do this well online. So there is the 3-page document is a process you can trust. And the infographic you see here, and you might want to take a snapshot of that infographic, the bit.ly link for the infographic will help keep you grounded and on track with these kind of remembrances. Okay. So with that, I'm going to say, don't underestimate how important are first impressions. And I do hope that this new system helps you make a stellar first and lasting impression. I heard it said once that it's not the zeros and the ones of the digital revolution, but the oohs and the ahs of how you tell your story that will get them to remember you. So one more poll before you go. I'd like to know how ready you are to sit down and plan your next presentation. Tell me from 1 to 5 how you feel about that. I know you might need to relook at this. You might need to think through that template, but it sounds like people think that you're pretty ready. I mean, I don't expect you to be totally excited. That's a little bit in jest, but good for you. We got a lot of people that feel like you are ready. Excellent. That's great. When you walk out of here today, whether you walk out of your office or your kitchen or wherever you are, please take that plan, and I hope that plan will give you confidence. So here's where you can go to learn more about winning the battle for member attention and readership. And thank you for joining GrowthZone. Thank you, GrowthZone, for having me today. And I wish you the very best wishes for a happy and a healthy holiday. It is 1 o'clock. I don't know how we're going to do this, but I don't know if anyone wants to stay on. I'm happy to stay on and answer some questions. But with that, you have a handout and you have a presentation, and I'm going to send it back to Amy.
Oh goodness, I've got, again, I office or live in a place called Morning Sun, and so here it is. Anyway, we have a couple of questions, Melynn, and again, if you want to sign off, if you got something to do, that's just great. We will send you the recording. If you'd like to stay on for a few questions, you are welcome to do so. It won't just cut off on its own. So one of the questions that came in is, when we survey our membership to find out what is important to them, whether it be topics for educational sessions, times of meetings, what they need from us, no one ever responds. How do we combat that? You're not alone. Melynn?
No, you're not alone. Absolutely. There are some best practices for conducting surveys. There's some like specific steps for conducting surveys. I can take you through a couple of things now, but I would say if you go to insightmarketing.com and go to services, there are some, or go to Insight Marketing, go to blog and search for surveys. And that would be the better place. It is a series of articles that will help you perfect and ensure that you get statistical samplings and help you get a better response rate. So first of all, shorter surveys are better. And honestly, I never survey about the types of educational offerings, those kind of things. I'm always surveying about what they worry about. So if you frame your survey in that you're looking for members to give you feedback about what they need in their business and what they worry about, we seem to get a little better response than evaluate this service or evaluate this conference or that kind of a thing. Okay. And then there's things about the way you structure your questions, the length of the survey, giving them an incentive. There are many other criteria that blend into the, sort of the pool of doing a successful survey. So go to Insight Marketing and the blog and look for surveys and look for some articles that will help you with that.
That is excellent. We have another question that, can you repeat what ROT stands for?
Absolutely. Redundant, overwhelming, and trivial. And I want to go back to that survey question just for a moment to tell you that during COVID, believe it or not, we have done more Zoom focus groups than surveys in my business this year. And when you can agree to have 10 or 12 or 15 people on a line and get even deeper with your questions about why the association matters to them and what they worry about, you get a little better long-term engagement from your members. So don't think that surveying is your only way to research.
All right, and I am looking here on the chat to see if anything else came through. Okay, this is kind of a housekeeping question, but a good one. The handout that Melynn was talking about, there will be a link to it in the follow-up email. So that should be available to you. It's Zoom wouldn't let us upload it for a webinar, but it will be available as well as the slide decks, links to the video, parts of the chat, things of that nature. So keep an eye out for that in the next 24 hours. I'm just scanning. All right, it looks like that is it for our Q&A today. Again, I want to thank Melynn, of course. We are so grateful that she took her time to work with us and to share her knowledge with our customers and our friends in the association and chamber market. So the CAE credit, that will come in a separate email, and the recording and everything, all the fun stuff with it, that will arrive in your inbox here in the next 24 hours. So again, thank you. I too, and all of us here at the GrowthZone team, wish you a happy holiday season. And we're all looking forward to bidding adieu to 2020. So have a great holiday, have a great week, have a great day, and we will see you next time.